Hi everyone, Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And we're going to do another 2020 special topic. And today we're going to talk about Saturn in Aquarius. Now, Saturn has been in Capricorn since the end of 2018. And it's been from 2018, 2019 in Capricorn, and 2020 in Capricorn for most of the year, except for about 3 months when it dips into Aquarius, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But I do want to talk a little bit about Saturn in Capricorn. Saturn in Capricorn is Capricorn is the ruling sign of Saturn, and so it's a very powerful position for Saturn. It deals with a sense of responsibility, deals with a sense of maturity, taking responsibility for yourself, structuring your life in such a way that you can utilize your energy in an efficient and so often ambitious way. And then after Capricorn, we have Aquarius. And Aquarius is the sign of revolution. It's the sign of thinking outside of the box. It is the sign associated with the process of individuation. When we turn our backs on what authority says we need to do for ourselves, and we make the decision for ourselves. It's part of the, sort of taking the reins of your life, becoming the captain of your own ship. And then, of course, when we get into Aquarius, we are dealing with the group and working toward the common good and in humanitarian endeavor. So it's a little bit, it's quite a bit of a change from Saturn in Capricorn, which has more to do with government structures and the structures of power, and oftentimes capitalism is sort of a Capricorn energy, and just generally hierarchical sort of constructs, whereas Aquarius is non-hierarchical. It has to do with sort of everybody being equal. Now, the interesting thing about Saturn in Aquarius is that before Uranus was discovered in, I believe it was 1781, Saturn was actually the ruling planet of Aquarius. And so for about 5 years, Saturn is in signs that were originally ruled by, or are still ruled by, Saturn, excuse me. So they're very powerful in these energies. And one of the things that Saturn in Aquarius can do is, Aquarius is a fixed air sign, and Saturn has its own sense of fixity. And so as Saturn moves through Aquarius, our ideas are going to be tested. Our ideas about such things as working for the common good, humanitarian endeavor, all of that will come up as topics of conversation, just as when Saturn has moved through Capricorn, the corporate established order is being questioned. And that's really what's happening. And so this is a time of really sort of reevaluating how we are governed, and then also how we get along as groups. So let's take a look at this ingress of Saturn into Aquarius. Now, it goes into Aquarius on the 21st of March. That's what this chart is right here in front of us. And we can see this is a natural chart with Aries at the ascendant. This was actually erected for Wareham, where I live. And so the ingress occurs just before noon. No, actually just before midnight, excuse me, on the 21st, 11:58:20 p.m. And so we can see this, this Saturn right here in Aquarius, 00 of Aquarius. And we do look to see if it, you know, if in fact it is doing anything in particular. We actually have it in a square to Uranus in Taurus. What's significant about that is that Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius, as is Saturn the ruling planet of Aquarius, sort of co-rules Aquarius. So we have to look at the influence of Uranus here. And as it is squaring Saturn in this configuration, this is a revolutionary aspect. It's actually a last quarter square as opposed to a first quarter square, but it is not a total last quarter square. It is on the disseminating side, meaning it is not exact. It is approaching exactitude. And so while there is this need for change and revolution, it's not quite to the point in its relationship to Uranus where we're really going to have an opportunity to break free. I believe we're not going to see that until 2021. We're going to see that last quarter square be exact at that time. So we are still sort of fomenting in revolution, but perhaps not quite ready to, you know, take the big step when it comes to that. So we also have Saturn making a supportive connection to Vesta. And it's very close because Vesta is at 020 of Gemini here. And of course, it's just 20 minutes away, which is very close. So that's a very tight trine. And trines always bring flow to the situation. And Vesta is the goddess associated with what we devote ourselves to. And in Gemini, we could very well devote ourselves to communication. So this says to me that communication will be a big part of this transit of Saturn in Aquarius. However, Gemini can also be lies. And so we still have to be very discerning when it comes to the information that we are hearing. We also have this Saturn making a sextile to the Sun in Aries. This is a 30-degree sextile relationship of Saturn to the Sun. It's a little over 30, it's about 32 degrees, but it has the energy again of Gemini. So there's a lot of Gemini energy in just innately in this chart because of those aspects. Gemini sextiles are about opening the lines of communication. And the Sun in Aries sort of points to this sense of new ideas coming to fore. We also have, and it's a wide sextile, but we also have a sextile to Chiron. It's probably a little bit wide to really be considered. It's influential, but not as influential as say the Sun, because it's much closer sextile. But Chiron in Aries deals with our wounds around our identity, how we define ourselves, our rights to even breathe air. And so these are also issues that will come up. Now, whereas the relationship between Saturn to the Sun was a Gemini side sextile, Saturn to Chiron is actually an Aquarian sextile. And so this is about what we know. This is about what we can do to sort of change the way we look at things so that we can perhaps do a little bit more for those who do in fact have to deal with this wound of identity. So this is an opportunity with this chart to actually it looks forward, at least in my eyes, looks forward towards actually doing some profound healing through this period of Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius is very much a sign of feeling alienated. And so there's this sense of alienation with Saturn in Aquarius, and we have an opportunity as it trines Chiron, as it sextiles Chiron in Aries, is to work through a lot of that sense of alienation that we get when we don't feel like we fit in, or that we don't feel like we're like other people. There's a uniqueness about Aries, and in this case, that uniqueness can create a wound because we're dealing with Chiron. So that's something to look at as well. So these are the major things that I see in this chart in particular. We do have, well, it's wide again, but an inconjunct to the north node of the moon. Of course, the north node of the moon in Cancer is about feeling our way through. And Saturn in Aquarius is often not really connected to the feelings. Aquarius is also an archetype of trauma. And so with Saturn in Aquarius, a lot of issues around trauma, especially dissociation, PTSD, that kind of thing, will come up to be looked at, to be evaluated, and we can see that also with this connection to Chiron, because Chiron in Aries can also be wounds around, the soldier, wounds around the warrior, the wounded warrior, so to speak. And so we will see, hopefully, some inroads in helping those people that we require to go out to quote unquote protect the country, and what they have to go through, and when they come back, what they have to go through, and how they are alienated and isolated and feel like they don't belong. This Saturn in Aquarius can actually be an opportunity to heal some of that, which I think is just fantabulous. Okay, so we do have this March 21st ingress, and I have a little something that I wrote up here. I don't actually know if you can see it because I don't think I'm sharing this particular page, but I'm going to read some of the Sabian symbol things that we have here. So the Sabian symbol for 1 degree of Aquarius is an old adobe mission in California. And it says, it is a symbol of man's ability to take natural materials from the environment to build something lasting and enduring that protects, sustains, and nourishes the community on every level. I think it's a lovely, actually, a lovely symbol for Aquarius, because that's really what Aquarius is about. It's about sustaining and nourishing the community through group participation. We are our brothers and sisters keepers, and together we work to make the world a better place. Now, one of the things I like to do with these ingress charts is to see what degree the ruler of the sign that Saturn happens to be moving into. And of course, that is Aquarius. And Aquarius for this ingress is at 4 degrees, 38 minutes of Taurus, or we round that off to 5 degrees of Aquarius. And so the Sabian symbol for 5 degrees of Aquarius is this, a widow at an open grave. It says, all natural compounds decay, says the Buddha, or said the Buddha. The most beautiful and most enjoyed substance loses its potential energy through continuous actualization, and the principle of integration and form is withdrawn, leaving the void, the open grave, that ends all attachments. The void is the great challenge. What next? One must begin anew, and if possible, at a higher, more inclusive, universal, less and less egocentric level. So this is really about, and the key words here is to discard the past. So letting go of attachments from the past, or maybe stories from the past, or perhaps ideas from the past, as Saturn in Aquarius tends to hold very, very, very tightly to their ideas. it says here, this symbol opens the door to self-renewal. Beyond the personal attachment rises the possibility of participating in a larger sphere of existence. This possibility rarely manifests itself except when one is ready to discard the past. And so this really is about letting go and sort of moving into a new sort of structure within society, a more progressive structure, because Aquarius is the sign of progressive change. And so for all those progressives out there, you know, we are not only the head of the curve, we are the curve. So that's optimistic. All right, so we have that particular chart. Now I'm going to pull up the second time that it enters or it exits Aquarius. So it's going to exit Aquarius now, and that occurs on July 1st, 2020. And here we can see Saturn up here. It just exited Aquarius, it retrograded back into Capricorn. And so from March 21st to July 1st, we have a little taste of what Saturn in Aquarius is going to feel like. And so I would say that perhaps the more progressive side of things will be put forward. Once Saturn moves back into Capricorn, we're going to sort of finish up Saturn in Capricorn. And then the third time that Saturn moves into Aquarius is on the 17th of December, 2020. And we can see that right here. Okay. Moving into Aquarius right there. And this is, and so then Saturn stays in Aquarius for 2 years, 2 years, 2.5 years, or 2 1/3 more years, something like that, because we did have a few months with it in Aquarius at the through March and July. So let's go back to this one here and see, as Saturn moves back into Aquarius, do we have any aspects being made? We actually have a sextile to the moon here. The moon is in Scorpio. This is also a progressive sextile, interestingly enough. We still have, well, now instead of Chiron being square, we actually have, sextile. We actually have Mars sextile Saturn here. And that is a opening the lines of communication sextile. At this point, when Saturn just moves back into Capricorn, it makes an inconjunct to the North Node, which is now in Gemini. The North Node is in Gemini at this point. And let me see, is there anything else poking out at me? No. Okay. The difference, the other thing here is that Uranus, which is still the ruling planet of Aquarius, of course, is now at 10 degrees of Taurus. So it has moved up quite a bit. And the Sabian symbol for 10 degrees, excuse me a second, I gotta find it. Sorry, guys. Is a Red Cross nurse. This is 10 degrees of Taurus. It says a compassionate linking to all men. So the first symbol was to let go of the past, and the second one is a Red Cross nurse. It says this symbol reveals the feeling of human cooperation at the stage of pure altruism and service to the social whole. On that foundation of Christ's love, agape, or true companionship, man can reach a still higher level of experience, made possible by the refinement of the substance of his being, his consciousness, and his will. This goes beyond imagination and faith in the future, beyond Christmas tree celebrations, for it implies going into the dark to bring life and love into the tormented and deprived, excuse me. At the final stage of the fivefold sequence, which we see is finally opening as a new potentiality to the widow before the open grave. So this is actually connected to that symbol, the closing symbol of the preceding sequence. Personal attachment and love to a husband or a wife has changed level, becoming a consecration to humanity. So it becomes less about the personal relationship to others and more about the sort of impersonal relationship to humanity, that we can love humanity as we love, say, somebody that we were married to or in a committed relationship to. So there is this commitment to humanity with this degree of Taurus, which is very interesting, right? Considering we're talking about Aquarius. Now, the last and final time it shifts, and we did look at this, but this is the December 17th chart, and we can see here we have the one degree of Aquarius. It is actually conjunct Pallas Athena in Aquarius. Pallas Athena is the goddess of social justice and social justice for humanity. Let's see what else we have here. It is still sextile Chiron. Okay, we have Chiron here, sextile. And we also have a sextile to Venus in Sagittarius, Juno in Scorpio. Okay, so we have a lovely sextile here, we have a sextile here, and then we have a trine between Venus. So it's like a little mini, the top of a kite, so to speak. All right, so let's see. And of course, as I look at this, we also have a conjunct Moon and Jupiter, which is conjunct at 30 degrees of Capricorn. So that's very interesting. And so we are bringing an understanding, Jupiter in Capricorn, of our limitations, perhaps, and the Moon in Capricorn, and our feelings, perhaps, our feelings. So we have this here. Now, again, I'm going to look at the degree that Uranus is in, and now we have Uranus at 7 degrees 3 minutes of Aquarius. And if we look to see the Sabian symbol for that, and I haven't actually read this yet, so we'll find out together. It says, a sleigh on land uncovered by snow. It says the value of anticipating and preparing for expectable conditions. Here we have a combination of two factors: the sleigh, which is a product of tradition, and the ability of man to foresee and thus to prepare for a future situation. This ability relates this symbol to the one, forget that. It says man should be ready to use past knowledge and skill to meet the demands of a stage yet to come. As a third stage of an eightfold sequence, we should realize the value of future-oriented imagination, but also rely upon the natural order of unfoldment of all life processes. And so there is this sense of being with an eye to the future, and yet allowing the present to unfold before us. And so this is all of these sort of symbols of the ruling planet of Aquarius gives us an idea of, letting go of the past, recommitting to humanity, and utilizing what we already know with a vision for the future. and yet not such a vision that it's so fixed that we don't allow the future to unfold before us. So this is sort of the energy of the these three charts of Saturn moving into Aquarius. So I hope that you found this helpful and interesting. Wherever Aquarius is in your chart, this is where Saturn is starting its journey through Aquarius, and will probably spend about, depending on your chart, 2.5 years in a house or in a combination of houses. And the way you would see this is here what you do is you look at your chart and you see where you have Aquarius. In this case, Aquarius is here because this is a natural chart. And so this actually should be on this side. I don't know why it's not. But that's how you can tell where Aquarius. So you just look for this Aquarius symbol in your chart to see. And of course, here at 00 Aquarius, Saturn is moving into Aquarius at 00. And so you want to see where 00 might fall. If this said, say, 29 degrees of Capricorn, then you would know that it would fall on this side. So that's just an example. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys. We'll talk more about Saturn and Capricorn. We'll talk more about all of this stuff. But like and subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Take care.